Welcome to the Art of Shame-Free Living podcast. So lately I've been thinking a lot about grief and about shame and how shame gets in the way of our grieving and our mourning process. And I don't just mean loss as in loss of life when it comes to grief, but all things that we are grieving, all things that are moving on and moving through us. I started thinking about this several months ago in preparation for my son moving out. For those of you that don't know, he left. He's going to live in Peru for a couple of years. He's going on a church mission. And up until this point, we've been spending a lot of time together. We have a lot of great conversations. And a lot of this work that I do, I also share with my children, especially with my teenagers. So we have a lot of good open conversations about emotions and such, and especially in his preparation for leaving home. So he has left home before. He went to college for a year. And even in preparation for that, I also was considering these, like, how is it going to feel for me? What I see modeled externally is either, on the one hand, like, I'm so grateful that my kids are leaving and I'm just like happy to have them out the door and I can't wait. Or the opposite of that being like, I'm having a really hard time. It seems really difficult for people to separate, for their kids to move on. And so as I had these thoughts swirling in my mind, and I thought, like, why is it feeling good for me? Why do I feel good? Why do I feel prepared? Because it really did. It felt like complete. It felt like it was his time. He was ready. He was excited about it. I was ready. I was excited about it. And part of me was like, I wonder if he's feeling this way too, or if it's just me feeling this way. And a few days before he was leaving and he was flying down to the US, he was going to a training center down there for a while first, a language training center. And as he was going down there, a couple days before, this is probably 2 nights before he's leaving, he came up to me and he just said, "Thank you so much for the kind of relationship that we have." Because he said, "I know that I could feel really worried and really anxious and really fearful at the separation, but I actually feel so good. I feel really prepared and I feel like we're going to feel really close even when we're far. And it feels like it's not hard on me because of that." And I was pondering on that because I see so many people would come up to me afterwards and be like, "How are you feeling? Are you having a hard time with it?" And I was like, "No, I'm really not. I feel so good." But I realized that the reason that I felt so good is because all of the other emotions that I had processed. So I was able to still feel like the sadness of him leaving, but it didn't feel like there was also shame or regret or resentment or remorse or anxiety or worry or fear. All of those kind of like heavier feelings, I think of them as like more of the unclean feelings that are popping up that feel heavy, that feel dirty, that feel like something's rubbed dirt and muck on them. Those are the ones that feel so heavy. And those are the ones that are really hard to process when it's just sadness and can move in and move through me. And so I realized there wasn't a lot of regret or resentment or remorse or shame. And I think that so often when it comes to separations like this, what we're really feeling is all of these other weighty feelings, and it's less of the just clean sadness that we're meant to feel at a separation like this. And so I started to ponder more on these feelings, and I was thinking about how what we really need to do is to recognize what are all of the other feelings. What is worry saying? What is fear saying? What is anxiety saying? What is resentment saying? What is regret saying? Can I listen not only to the message that they have to share with me, but also to the feeling? And you've heard me speak about this before on the podcast, but the message is going to be some of those illogical subconscious thoughts, and I'm going to actually write them out, actually recognize, like, where is this coming from? What is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? And then I'm also going to sit with the feelings. I've shared over the last month several experiences that taking people through subconscious practices, so you can do that guided along with me if you want, or you can contact me as well for a session. But I find that as I can move through the feeling part of it, the subconscious part of it, that I'm able to receive the message, both what it's saying to me and the feeling of it, and release that. Then I'm stuck with what feels more like the feelings that just need to be felt, right? The sadness that's just going to come and go. And I was thinking about this even beyond that to actual grief and loss, actually losing somebody close to us. And that so often we have regret. What did I say, or what could I have said, or what our relationship was like, or our last moments, or whatever. We have resentment, or we have fear or worry. And it's the same process there. It's the same cleaning up of the shame feelings, the feelings that feel heavier, that feel weightier, especially in the context of how am I relating to myself, or what am I believing about myself within this arena, in this context, that I can then clean up so that the feelings that are healthy, the feelings that are meant for me, like the sadness, can truly be present. Somebody reached out and said, "I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about forgiveness of self on the podcast." And I truly think that this is forgiveness of self for all of the things that I did do, all of the things that I didn't do, all of the things that I wished that I did do. And I think that process would be narrowed down to like, one, journaling out those feelings of, if resentment was speaking to me, what does it say? If regret was speaking to me, what does it say? Those ones that feel a little bit more illogical, those more subconscious thoughts. And then taking time to sit with the feelings and noticing that as the feelings get heavier and bigger, the more I can welcome them in, the more that I can be with them, they might feel a little bit bigger. Eventually they'll move to release, and eventually I will start to shift and feel better. And I like to listen to the message that comes with a better feeling too. And it's usually really simple. Like for a client today, it was just like, it's okay. Chill. You're going to be okay. Everything will be okay. So often it's just a tiny little message, but the words aren't so much important. It's the feeling that comes with that. And that's how we can truly process, no matter what's coming up with grief, and whether it's somebody who's passed on, or if it's a new separation that's happening, new closure, your children moving on, that you can actually feel really good about the process of them leaving the nest in a way that maybe isn't necessarily modeled. And same with the process of grief. And when it comes to actual loss, that we can really, truly allow the sadness in, the more that we process through those other feelings, the shame and the regret and the resentment and all of the feelings that come alongside it. When we can clean those out, we're left with the pain, the sadness, the heartbreak, and that our only job then to do is to feel, which I'm going to talk about more on the podcast next week. But I hope this was helpful for you and your own self-forgiveness process, your own emotion process, your own clearing up of whatever grief and resentment, regret is coming up for you. And we will see you next week. If you are enjoying these episodes, I would love for you to follow, subscribe, like, share, do all those things so that it can get more out into the world, more out into the algorithm, and join me in this shame-free movement.